Hi, welcome back to 16RC Tank Workshop. In the last video I stripped the tracks and wheels off the Panzer IV and painted the bottom and lower hull. In this video, back working on the Panzer IV again. This time, first of all, I'm going to have a look at the road wheels and see if I can add some extra detail. Next will be to paint the road wheels and mount the tyres. But in the meantime, let's get working on the wheels. So first of all, we'll have a look at the standard wheels and see how they can be improved. Here we can see the standard Armortek road wheel. You can see it was originally a flat piece of aluminium and cuts have been made. You can see clearly the cut marks. So I want to remove these marks, and these parts here I want to make more of a round profile. Also, the rim of the wheel is very flat, but I want to put a small rim profile on as well. Also, you can see the tyres, functional but quite plain. I won't be doing anything with the tyres other than sticking them on. To stick them, this rim needs to be clean, so I'll polish them off a bit. So I'll just take them off during this operation. You could use a Dremel. This is a Proxxon, just a handheld machine. And you can see it's one of these rounded engraving bits. Okay, so let's go fast forward for the rest of it. Now I want to try to round off these flat sections. So here's where we are so far. I'm just going to burnish it now with this small brass wire bush. Looks more like a cast finish on it now. Next, I'll add some rim detail. So it's onto the lathe. So first of all, I want to put just on the inner ring, I want to put a small chamfer. That's it, quick and easy, and we'll have a look at that now. It's just a small detail now. You can see the original was just flat. Now we've got this small amount of rim detail. I'll also want to put a weld, 3 welds on the wheel. I think that looks a lot better. I'm only going to do this with the wheels that are facing outwards. The inner facing wheels, nobody's ever going to see them, there's no point. So I'll just leave them as they are. So that's 1 down, another 11 to go. Oh, plus the spares, I need to do the spares. Next, I'm just rolling out a little bit of Milliput for the welds. It's a very small weld, but it'll add a bit of interest to the wheels. And I have my very small weld tool. Now once that Milliput cures, I consider this ready to spray with etch primer. To protect the bearings, I'm just going to use a piece of masking tape. I just cut around the edge of the hole. And that will protect the bearing while I'm painting. To keep paint off where the tire needs to fit, I've just cut strips of masking tape 10mm wide. I'll just wrap them around the rim. I want paint to get on the very edge, I don't want silver showing through. So here are my 16 wheels, reprofiled, extra rim detail added, and weld marks. A couple of the wheels will be a different colour to the standard dark yellow. Here we have the drive sprockets. I've added castellated nuts to the hubcaps and also made small castellated nuts for the inner edge. You can't see these ones, so I just have ordinary nuts on these ones. I've ground off all the tooling marks left by Armortek. There's a nice, fairly cast finish to it now. I've also chamfered all the teeth on all corners. It helps with the motion of the track. Here you can see my airbrush station set up. I have my extractor fan. I've got 2 airbrushes set up, one fine detail and one regular. And I'll show you how the fan works. This door tilts. The extractor fan is vented out through the top of the door. You can see I've got windows on both sides, so plenty of natural light. This is a waterfall type filter. So I'll just switch on the lights first, so you can see plenty of extra light, even for working in the evening time. And then we have the waterfall. This helps collect the paint as it's flowing through the fan and brings it down into a filter below. It takes some of the work away from the filters, which are also in the background. And switch on the fan. That's the extractor fan going. I wasn't very happy with the footage I got of painting the main road wheels, so here's some footage of painting the spare wheels. First of all, I'm applying a dark shade. And now some mid-shade tone. It's a mixture of made up. It's actually quite similar to the original base colour that I was using. And now back to my Tamiya XF60 dark yellow. Just a little bit more highlighting. And then some more shading. Eventually I'll get to where I want to be. For the chipping effect, I'm just using a small irregular shaped piece of sponge, using shades of black and grey. Still experimenting with this. And now to blend in the chipping, I'm just going over with the airbrush with some of the darker shade colour. And that's a rolled wheel done. Now let's have a look at doing one of the sprocket wheels. Again, the dark shade first. There's quite a bit more to the sprocket wheels. They're much more visible. I want to build up some shading in the recesses as much as possible around the screws. And then start on the inside sections. These areas would gather quite a bit of grime and dirt and rust. And now back for more highlights. I gradually build up the highlights and shading. As I've been working on the wheels, I've come up with some various shades of mixes. At this stage I hadn't actually developed the mid shade. I hope to have these colours sorted for doing the main hull, and I can always touch up some of the wheels as well at a later stage. So it's experimentation at the moment to see what works. I've recently been using some Tamiya lacquer paints in some other projects, so I'm hoping to use some of that on the hull, give it a try. I think it'll be much more hard wearing, but it also goes on really well with an airbrush, not so much clogging. I've used Tamiya red brown as a mix in making the shading colour. I think olive drab might also work, it might be worth a try. If I use the lacquer paints, I'm not too sure how they'll match in with the XF paints. Might need some blending. I have the Tamiya paint very well thinned. It's probably more than 50-50 thinner. But it's covering very well and it's going through the airbrush very well. Even though this is quite old paint, it's a few years old. I think it would work much better with some fresh paint. I'm mixing up my own thinner and airbrush cleaner. If you'd like to see some of that on the channel, let me know in the comments. I'm building up the dark yellow base again, just leaving some of the shading. And now some mid-tone shading. start weathering back. So let's paint some hubcaps now. Again with the dark shading to start. These are the hubcaps for the sprocket wheel. And then onto the road wheel hubcaps. Quite a few of these to do. Now I'm bringing them back up again with the base colour. I'm now adding small paint chips. I'm just using a small piece of sponge. It's a square piece of sponge, but I made it irregular at the edges. And I'm using combinations of dark greys and blacks. I'll use some red primer colour as well, red oxide. And I'll follow this process on the wheels as well. Here you can see I've done it on one of the sprocket wheels. I'm now going over chipped parts with the shade that I made for the dark yellow paint. Just very lightly, just to tone them in a bit. Doing this on the wheels as well. Starting to look like a well-worn hubcap with traces of the dark yellow showing through. Wheel, it's got lots of chipping and shading. I'm going to try to add some rust now. This is the old rust pigment. And now you can fix that. And finally a speeded up version of painting the idler wheel. It's the same process again. Again the base coat over the dark shade. So that's it, almost done. Next we'll have a look at the wheels fitted to the vehicle. Now you can see I've fitted the wheels to the Panzer IV. Drive wheels are attached, sprockets, idler. I refitted the tyres but they're not glued on yet. They're still loose. So I've ordered Loctite 480, I'm just waiting for that to arrive. The sprocket wheel is now fitted, but it's not fully attached to the shaft. the taper lock isn't locked in place. I want to get the tracks on so that I can gauge the exact position required on the shaft. So it's just loose for now. It can move on the shaft. The road wheels and idlers are on the shaft. They're screwed on at the moment, but I'll be taking them off again once I'm mounting the tires. So that's it for now. In the next episode I'll be getting the track painted and weathered and finally fitted. Please remember, hit the subscribe button. All subscriptions are appreciated. And watch some of my other videos as well. I'll put a link to some videos here and here, and I'll put some photos at the end as well. Thanks for watching.